biggest life hack is if you want to be great, to study for greats. And I'm not saying that I'm one of the greats yet, but I do think I have a very unique journey in the sense that I started as an artist, became a marketer, and won awards in that space. I develop and teach courses on luxury strategy and marketing for NYU and Scala Business School in Paris. And I'm also in a journey of building my own luxury brand that's focused on creating experiences for leaders of luxury and ultra luxury brands to come together in a very intimate and honest, transformative way. If you know me, you know that I take this philosophy of learning from others that I think have a lot of knowledge and experience in their space very seriously. I probably go through one or two books a week. I think books are one of the greatest things that humanity has ever come up with. There's no way for me to transport back to the robber baron era. And even if I could, to like be able to have access to have a conversation with Rockefeller, for example. But what I can do is I can read books on his story, on his philosophy. I have a book, for example, it's like 38 letters that Johnny Rockefeller wrote to his son. It's his personal letters. Even if I were to somehow time travel to that era, I would ever have access to this insight. And when you ask somebody a question, you can open the door for a much bigger discussion. So if you do have a question for me, whether it's for me personally or about building or growing a luxury brand, I'd like to post on Instagram one of those ask me a question prompts on stories. And you can feel free to submit any question that you want. Usually try to send at least one message, either a DM or a voice note to everyone that submits a question. And the most common questions or the most interesting questions, I like to feature in a YouTube video, a more long form answer. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's pull up the first question here. What has building Carra Club taught me? For those who don't know, Carra Club is the luxury brand that I'm building, focused on creating experiences and setting the conditions for the next generation of luxury powerhouses. And by experiences, it could be an exclusive summit, a growth accelerator, private dinners, even books. It's about cultivating the conditions for strategy, for growth. One of the biggest lessons that Carra Club has taught me, which when you go on this entrepreneur journey, you have no idea what's going to be revealed to you along the way. And one of the biggest things that I am super grateful for is just how much of your business is a reflection of you. I've always known that. And it's one thing to know it inherently, but it's another thing to experience it when you're building a brand. So I think if you want a business that's very sustainable, that you're going to be able to do for a long time, and if you're in the luxury space, it probably speaks to you in some way. Most of us are not necessarily building it to grow it in 5 years and then sell it. We're thinking a lot more long term. Maybe I would love for this to be around in 100 years, 200 years. Maybe I want this to become a generational business. If you want that level of consistency and durability required for a luxury business, it has to be a reflection of you. Once you have figured out what your obsessions are and what your unique gifts are, which I've made a whole video about, you can always count on the fact the one thing that you'll be able to do for the rest of life is be yourself. Like that's the one thing that you can guarantee you can continue to do forever. And as corny as that sounds, use that as the foundation that your business is built on. Building Carra Club, it's taught me a lot of things. But I think one of the things that I have enjoyed the most is like this return to self. And I think it's reflective in how the brand looks. The name of Carra Club, Carra is part of a family name that comes from my dad's side. So even the name of the company really comes from this lesson of returning to self. Whether you're starting a new business or not, it's much easier to create a unique position in the market because you're starting off with uniqueness and authenticity. If that is something that you're struggling with or you have any questions about, feel free to let me know. Maybe I'll create another video just about that topic. Okay, so next question. What's the playbook for building an ultra luxury brand? Ultra luxury, it's this like happy marriage between art and business. You need to be focused on excellence, whatever you did in the past, improving on that, making it better. Almost like you're in competition with yourself and not necessarily the market, because you're really trying to make the best that money can buy. So I think my advice, if you're building an ultra luxury brand, is to not lose sight of that competition with yourself, both as a brand and as a person. And I think you need to be extremely strategic about being in the right rooms with the right people. I think a lot of business and marketing best practices that work for a lot of other brands just don't work in the ultra luxury space. And if you come from that area of expertise, you do have to, I feel like, unlearn and relearn a lot in order to develop really effective strategies in the ultra luxury space, being extremely strategic about where you show up, when you show up, with who you show up is crucial. Everyday consumers can also be luxury clients, but generally speaking, you're going to be dealing with high earners, ultra high net worth individuals, maybe even family offices, billionaires. And so we're talking about the 1%. So being strategic with your marketing presence, I think, is crucial. In a different business, you might be able to do this approach of like reach as many people as possible. If there's like a ton of media waste, like that's totally fine as long as a certain percentage does hit our target market. And ultra luxury brands, a lot of the time, most people are not going to be aware of these companies. And even with Carra Club, I don't expect all people in business to know about Carra Club. Not at all, because we go after such a niche audience. So it is kind of like if you know, you know. Next question. What was missing from the luxury industry? I'm going to speak from my personal experience. Before I started Carra Club, I founded and ran a consulting firm for the luxury space for like 7 years. I was looking for an ecosystem that I didn't see exist. I'll give you some context from earlier in my career. So I was head of marketing at a few different companies before I started this consulting firm. I would go to a conference twice a year. It would be the top CMOs in the world, maybe like 150 people. So not a huge conference, but we're talking about the CMO of Amazon, the CMO of T-Mobile, the CMO of Shell Gas, the CMO of HP. It was the best event of the year. I would get so much out of it. We would have really thoughtful conversations. I've been to conferences where one of these CMOs would attend. You know, that person is like a rock star. And so everyone's trying to talk to them. But what I found was if you are at a certain level, there's a lot that people can learn from you. But in order for you to learn, you need to have a room of your peers. So 150 rock stars. Nobody is like impressed or like fangirling. So this event was for CMOs specifically, not for the luxury space. But it was one of a kind in the sense that it was impossible to find that same kind of space and caliber of people anywhere else. When I was running my consulting firm, I was looking for something like this in the luxury space. I think what I was looking for, I couldn't find. Either the dynamic wasn't really intimate and intentional, it wasn't focused on transformation and growth. I felt like that was missing from the luxury industry. Every time I would speak to a CEO, a C-level person, or the founder, entrepreneur in the luxury space about what I was interested in creating, it was expressed to me how this would be super exciting to have, being able to have a space where you can talk about growing your business, where you can talk about strategy, where you can continue to develop yourself, become a better luxury thinker with other people that are extremely high caliber, like rock stars in their own right. Okay, next question. What makes a luxury brand obsession worthy? First of all, I love the word obsession. So there's no one answer to this, but conceptually, what makes a luxury brand obsession worthy is when somebody feels like that brand is a reflection of themselves. When you're able to create these identity affirming emotions in someone where somebody's like, oh no, I'm definitely a Chanel girl. Oh no, I only drive Ferraris. I think getting somebody obsessed with you is because you have been able to craft your brand in a way where it continues to be about them. Engaging with your brand communicates something about them, who they want to be, or how they want to be seen. Your brand is an extension, is a tool for them to show up in the way they want to show up. It doesn't need to be a brand with a logo that people recognize. It could be like, I'm the type of person that like really cares about quality. I care about nutrition. I care about the quality of food. And so I want to have a custom Italian Bofi kitchen in my home. Choosing that brand is reflective of the fact that you care about quality in this specific area of your life. So for obsession, absolutely think about identity. If you're trying to create an obsession worthy brand, I think identity is the holy grail. Make it about them. All right, we'll do one more. What problem were you trying to solve? I think the simple answer here is that It can be very complicated for a luxury brand to grow. To be considered luxury, there's a sense of exclusivity that comes along with it. There can be limitations in terms of what volume you can produce without compromising quality. Growth and scale are not easy for the luxury space. That can be a real challenge. And there are frameworks, strategies, and business concepts that would be extremely helpful for leaders of luxury brands to know and implement in their businesses. But that information, there's not a lot of volume. How many marketing books have been written versus how many books on luxury marketing have been written? And it's also not very easily accessible. Maybe you have a friend that's also a luxury CEO that you can talk to about some of these things. There's like networking events, but there's not really spaces for you to develop your business and to develop yourself. That's the main problem in terms of how we solve the problem. The point of view that's unique to Carra Club is it takes a lot of honesty, real self-reflection as a brand and as the person leading the brand for you to be able to get to the growth you're seeking. You have to figure out what your way of growing your business is. I think the other part of it is that you, as a person, as a leader, the person responsible for the growth of that brand, needs to match that success in order for both of these things to meet in a way where real magic can happen. Let's care about in a nutshell. All of these questions came from Instagram. I try to respond to everybody that submits a question. Sometimes if there is a resource or a video that I've already created on the topic, I can send it to you and hopefully that can help you on your journey. Let me know if you have any more questions and feel free to stick around.